Hey, this is Heidi Dawson. If you love all things health and wellness and style of any kind, hang out here with me each week. I'm obsessed with never-ending improvement, and it's all in an effort to help each one of us live a wildly successful lifestyle. Subscribe today so you don't miss a thing. Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 450 of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. Thank you for hanging out with me. I love that you're here. And also, thank you so much for sharing these episodes when you find them empowering or inspiring. That is the highest compliment you can give me. And I do appreciate it. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. So our goal with the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast is to put in the work to remember that we're here to grow and learn. But most of all, we're here to enjoy life. We're here to enjoy this life that we have. I hope you're enjoying it. But it's not always rainbows and butterflies, right? Sometimes we have to deal with things that are hard. None of us are immune to that. And when those hard things happen, it is so easy to be stressed. And you start seeing the problem in everyone around you. Our tolerance level goes down for each other. Have you ever noticed that? But there is a much better way to handle our stressful times that we go through. There's a quote by Alexander Dugin that a common enemy unites us. And when I think about that quote, it's so true. Having a common enemy will often unite people. Just think about 9/11. I mean, the country united in a way we hadn't really seen for a very long time by way of a common enemy or a threat of some sort. When you have a common external threat, your energy and your attention that's focused on working together to protect ourselves from the outside threat. So a common enemy can be a really good thing. But sometimes when we're stressed, we end up fighting the wrong enemy, right? We end up picking the enemy that isn't really the enemy. I have a good friend who will often talk about her work. So she has had this nemesis on her team at work for a while. So I know this person's name very well because she's had problems with them for the past year. Nothing major, just little annoyances here and there. Well, in the last few months, the tide has shifted and all of a sudden they're big friends. Like I'm hearing about them making jokes and sending texts and just having a really great work relationship. So I asked her, I was like, hey, what changed? And she said, oh, well, we both are really not loving some of the decisions our new boss is making. And so it's kind of bonded us. And I said, oh, so that saying having a common enemy is true, huh? And she laughed and said, yep. But isn't that true? A common enemy? It can even bring complete strangers together. For instance, years ago, my friend Donna and I this is a crazy story. We were out of town for a design job. We had been working hard all day and we knew there was a storm coming and we didn't get out soon enough. So we are driving in this massive storm with tornadoes and hail. I mean, we literally were driving and could not see the road. We couldn't see. I had no idea I was driving and I had no idea where we were driving. In an effort to try to make it to my friend's house, because she happened to live in the town, I ended up on some random street, not knowing if I was on the street or in the grass. I couldn't see. It was hailing too hard and the wind was blowing. So we were outside this house and the people were standing in the window and they're like, what in the world are these people doing? And they could tell we were in trouble. So they frantically waved us to come in their house. So we got out of the car and we went into the safety of their home. Now they had no idea who we were, but they knew and could see that we were in big trouble. We really all were in big trouble, but us especially because we were in a car. So we bailed the car and ran into their house. A common threat bound perfect strangers together. And I've seen it many times, videos of people in grocery stores during storms. They're huddled together in a safe room. The common threat of a storm has bound them together, and they're perfect strangers. And I was thinking about this because I mentioned in the last episode about Eric, my husband, being diagnosed with AFib, and how it was kind of shocking and really stressful because there's so many unknowns. Anytime you get an upsetting diagnosis or anything stressful is going on in your life, there's a lot of uncertainty and fear that can come with that. Now, Eric had a friend tell him recently that everything was awful in their house right now. And Eric asked him, he's like, well, what's going on? And his friend said, well, our oldest is leaving for college tomorrow and we're taking it really hard. You can imagine. When you have something like that going on, things can feel unsettled and everyone can be a little on edge. And when you're on edge, little things bother you. Little things set you off. Your tolerance goes down. around, and those little things can turn into big things quickly. Eric and I have been babysitting our neighbor's Chihuahua. Oh my goodness. His name is Elvis, and like most little doggies, Elvis loves walks. So I walk him every day. I just love walking him. But on Sunday, Eric decided he was going to go with us. He was going to join us on our walk. Now, Elvis walks the way Elvis wants to walk, which means it's more of a sniff fest than a walk. I mean, a walk around the block can take forever because he has to sniff every little thing. And I don't mind letting him do that. But Eric has a different idea about how dogs should walk. I just wanted to let Elvis be Elvis because we only have him for a few more days. And Eric thought the walk should be a little more structured. So that turned into Eric and I having an argument. Now, normally, this wouldn't be an issue at all. Nothing. I mean, normally he would just laugh it off or I would laugh it off and we would not argue about it at all. It would not be a problem. But we were having such a stressful week that our tolerance level was pretty low. So now everything was a problem. But I knew a lot of our frustration had nothing to do with Elvis. Obviously, it was a rough week. We had that going on. But Eric was so sweet. At one point, we had been irritated at each other for a little while when he just came up and he gave me the biggest hug. And I realized immediately we had been making each other the enemy when that isn't the case at all. We aren't each other's enemy. We love each other. However, we do have a common enemy right now. We have a common threat. We've both been kind of freaking out a little bit about this diagnosis that popped up out of nowhere, and understandably so. But why are we making it worse by fighting each other? We aren't the problem. Instead of fighting each other, we should be fighting the real source of the problem. When you give yourself a minute and you step back and you really look at it, what is the source of the problem? It's not Eric. It's not me. It's not even really the diagnosis. It's really the thoughts we're having about that diagnosis. But when you're stressed and afraid, it's easy to turn on each other. It's really easy to be so intolerant and turn on your best friend, really, when the best thing you could do would be to turn towards each other. I mean, the diagnosis, the first child leaving for college, the job loss, the death in the family, these can all be so stressful. But when you look at it like it's us against the problem, instead of you're the problem or I'm the problem or that thing's the problem, you start remembering you're on the same team. And when you do that, you gain strength from each other. And instead of putting energy into fighting with each other, you put that energy towards researching what you can do about the diagnosis, or energy towards moving your freshman into the dorm, or whatever is the best way of supporting each other. Studies show people who have support always do better and they live longer. So don't make your partner the problem. Don't make your partner the enemy. Focus on a solution to the real problem together. Now it's you and your spouse against the problem instead of against each other. My challenge to you this week is if something stressful happens or is happening, notice how little things begin to irritate you. But remember, when you have a common enemy, it unites you. So instead of picking at each other, say, hey, we know it's a rough week, but it's you and me against this thing. We're a team. And teams do better when they work together. Everything really did change when Eric and I started working as a team, and it will for you too, I promise. Share this with 3 people who you consider to be on your team. I love you guys. I'll talk to you in a few days. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.